You might remember that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. On May 30th of last year, a Manhattan jury found Trump guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records in order to pay hush money to porn star Stormy Daniels during the run-up to the 2016 presidential election. That makes him a convicted felon, and so far all his attempts to appeal that verdict have failed. To add more salt to the wound, Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan prosecutor who won that case, just won the Democratic primary here in New York City, pretty much guaranteeing his reelection come November in our deep blue city that has hated Trump since the mid-1970s. And yes, I almost said erection. Now, Trump's lawyer, the homunculus who lost that case, rendering Donald Trump a convicted felon, his name is Emil Bove, who Trump called an incompetent and an idiot throughout last year's trial, which is why Trump had no choice but to appoint Emil Bove acting Deputy Attorney General and then Assistant Deputy Attorney General after Todd Blanche, that other legal genius on Trump's defense team, was confirmed as Deputy Attorney General. Emil Bove is an insufferable prick, which is why Trump just nominated him to serve as a circuit judge handling parts of New Jersey and Philadelphia. He can meet with Alina Habba. If confirmed, this will be a lifetime appointment. During hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee Wednesday, Bove confirmed previous reports by Politico that while serving as a federal prosecutor in the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office, that was before he became a defense lawyer, Bove was severely disciplined and almost fired after an internal review concluded he was abusive towards coworkers. The internal review said Bove lacked leadership skills and recommended he be fired or at the very least demoted. At the same time that this recommendation for Emil Bove's firing was coming down, federal judge Allison Nathan was calling for a federal investigation into Bove's prosecutorial misconduct. She suggested that he might have committed what she called the cardinal sin of withholding evidence favorable to the defense, otherwise known as exculpatory evidence. It is if you're a prosecutor, you are supposed to turn over all evidence and discovery to the defense team so there are no surprises. And the judge suggested that Bove was hiding evidence from the defense team, and the trial, because of that, the prosecution collapsed. The Politico article on Bove suggested that the Manhattan Attorney's Office, after that internal review, decided not to fire Bove out of fear his firing would lend credence to the judge's accusations of Bove's prosecutorial misconduct. During his testimony, Bove admitted that he was disciplined by his superiors, but insisted he never begged to keep his job. During the hearings, Democrats on that committee, on the Justice Committee, said they spoke with Bove's colleagues at the Manhattan Attorney's Office who called him abusive and said they wished he had been fired. In response, Bove testified, "Well, I'm not perfect." Really? You're not perfect? Because I look at Emil Bove and I see a younger version of Steve Martin, a guy who clearly has it all. But if Emil Bove says he's not perfect, I guess we'll have to just take his word for it. I mean, I see perfection, an exemplar of excellence, someone we should try to be like, but he says he's not perfect. During his brief time serving in the Trump Justice Department this year, Bove fired or demoted hundreds of federal attorneys and FBI agents who helped prosecute the nearly 1,500 insurrectionists charged with storming the Capitol on January 6. Fun fact, Emil Bove, seen here accidentally catching a whiff of himself, Emil Bove was working in the Manhattan Attorney's Office on and after January 6 throughout 2021. And he helped prosecute some of the very same deplorables Trump ended up having to pardon. So theoretically, Emil Bove should have fired himself. But that would have been the right thing to do. By the way, I didn't alter this picture of Emil Bove. That's what he looks like. You should see him during molting season. By the way, Kenneth Chesebro, the Harvard Law School nutjob who pleaded guilty down in Georgia to filing false documents when he orchestrated the phony electors scheme in the lead up to January 6, he was just disbarred by the New York Bar Association. He cannot practice law in New York State. And John Eastman, his legal partner in crime, was disbarred in California. He appealed. He's still appealing, but doesn't look good. On June 18th, 2025, the California State Bar Courts Review Department upheld a March 2024 decision calling for Eastman's disbarment. Eastman, a friend of Judge Clarence Thomas and Thomas's unhinged wife, Ginny, is reportedly broke. Eastman is broke. He can't practice law, and he's tapping in to his wife's retirement account. There's no money. It's very sad. Very sad. Well, Bove's testimony took place under the cloud of a whistleblower. Did that stop? Yeah, it did. Let me just... Yeah. Very sad. Bove's testimony took place this week under the cloud of a whistleblower complaint filed by a former U.S. attorney working inside the Justice Department's Immigration Division. His name is Erez Reuveni. I've talked a lot about him back in March. So in the whistleblower complaint made by Reuveni, he alleges that Emil Bove, while serving earlier this year as acting deputy attorney general, declared he would disobey any judge's order that blocks Trump's plan to deport migrants to that high-security dungeon in El Salvador. Reuveni, the whistleblower, back in March, was forced to argue on behalf of the Justice Department's refusal to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States. He was that Maryland man given protected legal status, but then deported to El Salvador when ICE said it made a mistake. Attorney General Pam Bondi suspended Reuveni, who's now the whistleblower, after he told the judge in that case that Garcia shouldn't have been deported. And then Reuveni, he's the whistleblower, told the judge he was having a hard time arguing on behalf of his client, that client being Donald Trump. He said, I'm having a hard time making the case for the Department of Homeland Security and Donald Trump because they have not been forthcoming with any evidence as to why Garcia should remain in the El Salvadoran prison, especially since ICE admits they made a mistake. So after he said that, Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, suspended him. And in suspending him, she warned everyone in the Justice Department that they will all be fired if they don't make full-throated arguments on behalf of their client. And who is the Justice Department's client? Donald Trump. I have never heard of the Justice Department referring to the President of the United States as their client. But when you have Pam Bondi, who served as one of Trump's impeachment lawyers, now working as Attorney General, when you have Todd Blanche, who defended Trump in several criminal trials last year, he's now serving as Deputy Attorney General. When you have Emil Bove, who also defended Trump in several criminal trials last year, he's now working right below Todd Blanche. When you have these people populating the commanding heights of the Justice Department, I can see how the people inside our Justice Department can see Donald Trump as their client. This whistleblower, Ruveni, the lawyer, claims he and his co-workers at the Justice Department were shocked when Emil Bove began telling Justice Department attorneys that these deportations must take place even if it means disobeying court orders. The whistleblower said Bove told Justice Department attorneys they might, quote, need to consider telling the courts, F you. But he didn't say F you, he said the actual F word. You might remember on March 14th of this year, a judge ordered 3 ICE planes carrying migrants heading for El Salvador to be turned around. Abrego Garcia, was in one of those planes. They weren't turned around. And according to the whistleblower, Bove told Justice Department lawyers these planes, quote, needed to take off no matter what. Well, during his testimony on Wednesday, Bove denied all the whistleblower's accusations. And then Senator Ted Cruz thanked Emil Bove for fighting to keep American citizens safe. The subject then turned to Bove's decision to drop prosecution of New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who was indicted last fall by the Biden Justice Department, which charged him with violating campaign finance law and accepting bribes from the government of Turkey. New Jersey Democrat Senator Cory Booker now saying Bove might have lied under oath Wednesday when Bove denied orchestrating a deal with the mayor of New York in which the Justice Department would drop its case against Eric Adams if Mayor Adams would agree to assist ICE in rounding up migrants, even though New York City law expressly says New York City is a sanctuary and all government officials are forbidden from assisting ICE. Emil Bove testified there was no quid pro quo, that his department didn't negotiate any deal with Adams, and they never promised to drop the case if he cooperated with ICE. Bove said he dropped the case against Adams because the evidence wasn't convincing. Well, in February of this year, Bove ordered career lawyers inside the Justice Department to sign a motion asking the judge in the Adams trial to dismiss the case. Several career attorneys in that office quit in protest, saying it was a quid pro quo. A quid pro quo they were legally bound not to be a part of. So Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy pressed Emil Bove on Wednesday to swear to your higher being. Do you swear to God that there was no deal with the mayor? Emil Bove responded, I know I'm under oath. I swear to God, no deal was struck with the mayor. Bove said he wanted the case against Mayor Adams dismissed because the indictments were meritless. When asked if he examined the evidence against Mayor Adams before deciding on his innocence, Bove admitted that he had not looked at the evidence. So Emil Bove, nominated by Trump for a lifetime appointment to the bench. decided Eric Adams was innocent without even looking at the evidence. Who needs judges? Who needs a judiciary branch when this guy can just look at a person and tell if they're guilty or innocent? Just let Emile Bove decide. Judge Dale Ho is the United States District Judge for the Southern District of New York. He presided over the trial for New York City Mayor Eric Adams. He was forced to throw the entire case out after prosecutors said, we're not going to try it. In a 78-page ruling to dismiss the case earlier this year, Judge Ho said he can't force prosecutors to try the mayor, but, quote, everything here smacks of a bargain, unquote. That's what the judge in the trial said. So Emile Bove on Wednesday testified under oath. He swore to God there was no deal to drop the charges against Eric Adams in exchange for his cooperating with ICE. The judge in the case said, everything here smacks of a bargain. Judge Ho said a bargain was obviously made in which the Justice Department, that would be Emile Bove, agreed to drop the case, quote, in exchange for Mayor Adams' immigration policy concessions. By the way, Judge Ho dismissed the charges with prejudice, meaning the Justice Department cannot revisit the prosecution of Eric Adams if he doesn't follow through on the deal to cooperate with ICE. Senator Dick Durbin, the ranking Democrat on the committee, told Emile Bove Wednesday, well, Judge Ho foiled your plans by dismissing the charges with prejudice. Now Mayor Adams has absolutely no incentive to cooperate with you or ICE. Well, as you know by now, there's an election for mayor of New York City in November. Eric Adams quit the Democratic Party earlier this year, and on Thursday made it official he's running in November as an independent. This race is not over by a long shot. Zohran Mamdani, the 33-year-old Democratic socialist who became a naturalized United States citizen 6 years ago, won Tuesday's Democratic primary, beating the disgraced former governor of New York State, Andrew Cuomo, who, as you all know, was forced to resign amid sexual harassment and sexual assault allegations. Cuomo conceded defeat Tuesday, and on Thursday he just announced he is still running as a third-party candidate in November. That would be good for Mamdani, since Cuomo and Eric Adams will split the conservative, bigoted vote in New York. Cuomo, throughout his losing campaign, said his number one concern is fighting anti-Semitism. Eric Adams appeared on Fox and Friends Thursday to say his number one focus in this campaign is anti-Semitism. Gee, why would two scandal-plagued political hacks like Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo say they're focused solely on anti-Semitism? Could it be because Mamdani is Muslim and Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams think so little of Jewish voters that they think Jewish voters can be manipulated into fearing a Muslim mayor, even though that Muslim mayor shares their same Tikkun Olam values? This is going to be a very, very ugly campaign. Very ugly. Because Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo are very ugly people inside. On Fox and Friends, Mayor Adams on Thursday referred to Mamdani as a snake oil salesman. So, Mamdani ran on a platform promising to reinforce New York City's sanctuary laws and guarantee ICE would be barred from using any city property or employees. Mamdani said he would protect the privacy of all immigrants and provide free legal counsel to any migrant apprehended by ICE. That is not Eric Adams' policy. It is Cuomo's. Donald Trump's deputy chief of staff, Stephen Miller, who invented the family separation policy, and he's now demanding ICE arrest 3,000 people a day, even if they have no criminal record. He called Mamdani's win a result of migrants pouring over the border unchecked. The Guardian, writing that Stephen Miller once again repeated the Great Replacement theory, one of the pillars of the MAGA movement, which states Democrats are flooding the country with non-whites in order to destroy it. That is the Great Replacement theory. It's what Tucker Carlson subscribes to. It's what Trump subscribes to. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries congratulated Mamdani, but have not yet endorsed him. As I said at the top of the show, Schumer and Jeffries are on the ballot in every state and congressional district in next year's midterms. If the Democrats gain control of the House, Jeffries is Speaker. If Democrats gain control of the Senate, Schumer is Majority Leaders. Two Democrats representing the city of New York, especially Wall Street. Two Democrats deeply entrenched with and beholden to the billionaire class who think Band-Aids and lip service are a substitute for income redistribution. So they have one of the most important decisions of their political careers to make. Are they going to endorse Mamdani? Because the second they endorse Mamdani, Trump will call them radical socialists. Thing is, he's going to call you radical socialists whether you endorse Mamdani or not. The other thing is, if you don't endorse Mamdani, the Democratic Party is doomed. This is the future. Everything Mamdani is fighting for is how you win elections. At the top of the show, I talked about Democratic Socialist India Walton. She was a nurse who won the Democratic primary in 2021 for mayor of Buffalo. She defeated the Democratic incumbent only to lose the general election. After that, Democratic incumbent launched a successful write-in campaign financed by wealthy donors. Back then, India Walton, socialist, received endorsements not just from Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, but Chuck Schumer as well. As I said at the top of the show, New York City will be Gettysburg in the battle for control of the Democratic Party. Mamdani is the future. He's running on a platform of increasing the minimum wage, universal health care, free bus fare, free tuition at public colleges, rent freezes for nearly 1 million residents, 200,000 affordable homes, free child care for children starting at 6 weeks old, and paying for all of it by taxing the richest 1%. He's also proposing city-owned grocery stores to lower the cost of food. Kansas and Wisconsin are already trying this, and according to the New York Times, similar plans are underway in Chicago and Atlanta. Mamdani is no longer calling on defunding the police, but he now wants a Department of Community Safety that deals with people suffering mental health crises so that police can focus on fighting crime. in most cities, it's the police who have to deal with people who are struggling, and the police are not equipped to deal with people who are struggling with mental health issues because so many of our police officers are suffering from mental health issues. Mamdani had my vote on Tuesday. He'll have my vote in November. Eric Adams won't. I was born in Brooklyn. I know a little about this city. It's dying because it's unaffordable. It's become a caricature of the Gilded Age. It's time for a socialist. Conservative Democrats like Eric Adams can't debate Mamdani. They can't debate him on the issues. So they're using Israel and Jewish paranoia as a wedge issue. I don't think it's going to work, but I'm not sure. Maybe Cuomo will stay in the race through November, and he and Adams can split the bigoted vote of stupid New Yorkers. We'll know in November. And this November is 1 year away from midterms. It's all happening here in New York City. The struggle for the heart and soul of the Democratic Party started this week with Mamdani's win. Senator Bernie Sanders said Mamdani won on Tuesday because you win elections taking on the billionaire class. Problem is we have too many billionaires and millionaires in the Democratic Party who don't need to win elections. I hope Mamdani wins, and I hope the Democratic Party learns how to win by promising what Mamdani is promising and then delivering. I hope the Democrats take back the House and the Senate. But the stock market is approaching record highs right now. Trump can lie and lay claim to the ceasefire in the Middle East. He can say it's working. He can lie and say my beautiful bombs brought peace. The one big beautiful bill, which I'll talk about tomorrow, stalling in the Senate. Maybe one big beautiful bill will pass. Maybe. And most of the cuts to food stamps and Medicaid, they're not scheduled to take effect until after the midterms. So I'm not optimistic right now. I'm not optimistic. Finally, Bill Moyers passed away at the age of 91. Google Bill Moyers and watch his work on YouTube. He will be missed. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Please like this episode so I remain in your feed. Subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to my newsletter. Leave a comment. I read all your comments. If I made any mistakes, please correct me. Thank you to Mila and Bob in the chat room for keeping the conversation civil. And I'm probably going to do a show tomorrow. Thank you for listening.